Hello, this is Stephen Bedard, and I want to address a very specific question. Is Canada persecuting churches? I've been hearing a lot about this. In fact, a lot of my friends in the United States have been tweeting and posting on Facebook their great concern over the terrible things that are happening in Canada as the government is cracking down on Christian churches, and there is this incredible persecution that is taking place. And so I want to answer that question. Is Canada persecuting churches? The answer is no. 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 Okay? I hope you heard that. It's no. The government is not persecuting churches. You might be thinking, what are you talking about? Of course the government is persecuting churches. There are stories of the government stopping churches from opening up, that they're fining people for showing up at church. They are turning people away. There's even an example of authorities putting up a fence around a church. Of course that's persecution. How could you say that there's no persecution that's taking place? Well, I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but there is this thing called the COVID-19 pandemic that has been taking place. And our government, and I can only speak as a Canadian, our government is trying to stop the spread of COVID-19. And so they are doing that by limiting certain kinds of gatherings, which are considered super spreaders. So at this point, we're not allowed to have, at least in the province I'm in, we're not allowed to have more than 10 people in a building to try to stop that spread. But this is what you need to realize. The government has not said only churches are not allowed to meet. That is not what's happening. If persecution of the churches was happening, then you would hear that the mosques, they were still allowed to meet, and the synagogues, they're allowed to meet, and the temples, they're allowed to meet, but we're going to crack down on the churches. We don't want the Christian churches to be open. And you might think, well, no, it's not just a persecution of Christians, it's a persecution of all religious people. Well, the problem is that they are stopping all of these organizations from doing these things. In fact, in the city that I live in, there's a hair salon that has very much disagreed with the government's way of responding to COVID-19. They have disagreed about the lockdowns and all of those things, and they have insisted on staying open, and they have experienced fines. They have gotten in trouble with the government. Is this a sign of a government persecution of hair salons? Probably not, no. They're seeing that hair salon as being a business that is not compliant with the COVID-19 restrictions, and so they are facing the consequences of that. It is the same thing when it comes to churches. Churches that are not compliant, who are continuing to open, and there are a number of them who are doing it. I've seen in the news a church not that far from here that's had a COVID-19 outbreak because they refuse to be compliant. They won't wear masks, they don't do social distances, they keep open, and they have a COVID-19 outbreak. And so these kinds of things are happening. But there are still people who are saying, no, the government is persecuting Christians. They're stopping us from preaching the gospel. They're stopping us from worshiping. Well, that's not the case. We have had a worship service every single Sunday since COVID-19 has started. Many of those have been online. Some of them have been in person, but most of them have been online. We've not had any government interference. No one has come to us and censored our YouTube videos. They've not asked for the name of Jesus to be removed. They haven't had asked for a list of the people who watch us on Facebook or on YouTube. Nothing like that has happened. They haven't stopped us from videoing. We are doing things in such a way that keeps people safe. We are compliant with the restrictions, and we are able to preach the gospel. Not only are we able to preach the gospel, we are getting the message out to a greater audience than we ever had. We have people way beyond our city who are watching our services. And so, if anything, what's happening now is getting the message out more and more. So, as a Canadian Christian pastor, I can tell you I am not feeling persecuted at all. Now, I realize that there are people who absolutely disagree with the lockdowns. They disagree with all of the restrictions, and that's fine. If you disagree with that, you are welcome to express that disagreement. You can say that the government is being unwise in how they are responding. But that's a totally different thing than a persecution. The government is not targeting and persecuting churches. Repeat after me. The government is not targeting and persecuting churches. Please be aware of this. Stop spreading lies, because it is really hurting the Christian witness. When you're going around saying that the church is being persecuted and it's not being persecuted, it makes people wonder, well, what else are we stretching the truth on? So don't share misinformation. Be aware of the truth and be thankful that we have the technology to be able to do the things that we are doing. Thank you for listening to my rant, and please visit me at my website, stephenjbedard.com. God bless.